Welcome. Conversations that highlight fascinating ways people are impacting the lives of those who are vulnerable. Impact Conversations with Dawn Mansky. This Impact Conversation is brought to you by Made for Freedom, the social enterprise with products made by survivors of human trafficking and marginalization. Made for Freedom is fighting human trafficking with style.
So glad you could join us today. Over the past several years, I have met some amazing people that are doing fascinating things to come alongside the vulnerable, to help prevent abuse of children and help restore those who have been trafficked. I have met some incredible people, and that is where the idea for Impact Conversations came from. And today, I am thrilled to introduce a good friend of mine, Kenneth Rogers Jr. Kenneth and I met at a conference several years ago and have been able to keep in touch a little bit. And we see each other at random conferences. And he gives me grief like none other. Kenny is an author, nationally recognized public speaker, member of the RAIN Speakers Bureau, coach, husband, and father. He has a dual bachelor's degree in political science and English and a master's in education from Johns Hopkins University. He also has written and published 10 books. I'm thrilled to have him here today. So I'd like to thank you, Kenny, for being with us.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Don.
So good to see you virtually.
Yeah.
And, you can't give me nearly as much grief now.
You'd be surprised.
I might be surprised. So I met you when you were promoting one of your books.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, I didn't realize at the time, you have written and published 10 books.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the overall character or category of your books?
I wish I could. Like, they are all over the place. Like, literally, I just can't focus on one specific topic or genre. I started off writing fiction. Very Ray Bradbury style, because he is or was awesome. And then from there, I progressed into writing for survivors of childhood sexual abuse, mostly because I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. Every single time that I write in the past and the present has always been because of trying to sort of deal with my past trauma in some way, shape, or form. Writing has always been sort of an escape. So even though I've written speculative fiction, young adult trilogy, sci-fi, and memoir, all of them, some way, shape, or form, deal with me trying to cope with understanding my own past and trying to move forward and heal and recover, even when I didn't realize I was doing it. So that's the only way I could possibly categorize every single book that I've written.
Wow. So kind of self-therapy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And coming alongside others.
Yeah.
That have experienced some similar things. So you have a lot of books about superheroes.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about how you incorporate superheroes and how you use superheroes to help survivors of childhood sexual abuse.
Yeah, sure. So I started really focusing on getting better from my childhood sexual abuse and really coming to grips with it right around age 28. Suffered a pretty bad mental breakdown and ended up getting a therapist, talking with the therapist, Susan. Still have her. She's awesome. So while we were dealing with trying to get better and trying to heal, the book that we use is The Courage to Heal. That book is written specifically for female survivors of childhood sexual abuse. So while we were reading that book, she would have to change the pronouns to he, him. And every time she would have to do it, and sometimes she would slip up, every time that would happen, it would make me feel more alone and more isolated, even though she would remind me of the fact that there are other male survivors. 1 in 8 actually is the ongoing statistic, but it's probably a different statistic. So I started getting the idea of actually writing for male survivors. I started off writing my memoir, Rape Black Male. The reason I chose that title was because at the time when I started writing, there was a lot in the news media about um, armed black male, hostile black male. It was a lot of negative press for black males, and I wanted to sort of change the narrative. So I wrote Rape Black Male, but I realized after writing it, like it was very therapeutic for me, but not very helpful for other male survivors. So while they may be able to identify with my story, it still would put off some individuals. And I understood that. So I've always loved superheroes. And I really saw a lot of my own struggles and my own life in the superheroes that I loved. Uh, and as I started reading more of The Courage to Heal, along with other books on cognitive behavior therapy, um, dialectical uh, dialectical therapy, and so many different other forms of CPTSD and ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, I really saw the connection between these fictional characters and trauma. And it just surprised me how no one else was able to like really make that connection. And using superheroes to sort of explain the healing process, coping mechanisms that male survivors really sort of fall in line with workaholism, hypervigilance, um, perfectionism. All those things can be seen in superheroes such as Superman, Batman, or villains such as Lex Luthor with denial, or even self-harm with some characters like Mr. Aziz, who cuts himself every time that he commits a murder. So there was a lot in the DC and Marvel universe that really coincides with the healing process, and I wanted to explore that further. So I started writing. I started off with Heroes, Villains, and Healing, which deals with all the DC heroes and villains and how they can be incorporated in understanding the coping process. And then I moved forward from that in order to understand how to heal from hypervigilance with how to kill your Batman, and how to conquer hypervigilance in order to pretty much save your Bruce Wayne. And the one that I just finished is how to master your inner Superman, which deals specifically with perfectionism and the need to always be more of a real man rather than just be yourself. So superheroes, I think, are really great in helping male survivors really identify with their trauma, uh, and sort of start to address it without having to really address it and talk about it as themselves, because males, we really do not like to talk about our emotions or our feelings, due to societal standards of what it means to be a real man. So it's superheroes are awesome and they're cool and they're fun to read and incorporate in your writing.
Nice, nice. So I'm at a recent conference where we saw each other and harassed each other.
Yeah. Yep.
We were able to go out and we were talking a little bit more about this.
Mhm.
And I had heard something about kind of using superheroes as well. And I mentioned something about Superman and how, kind of like you just said, we can all relate. Like we all know these characters. Like
Mhm.
we know so much about these characters that don't even exist,
Yeah.
really. But something about kryptonite and how even Superman has a weakness.
Yeah.
And I remember you went, I that was all I had. And you started in on like 5 different kinds of kryptonite. What just just rehash this conversation for me because I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. So there's a thing called SUDS, which uh, therapists and counselors use in order to help survivors figure out where their emotions are. And I had the idea of using kryptonite in order for survivors to try and figure out where they are on the SUD scale. So, like, the goal depends on which SUD scale you use. Oh,
What's SUDS?
the subjective units of distress scale. Therapists use it to sort of get a gauge on where the survivor is in their like their internal emotions. Depends on which one you use. So using kryptonite, you can sort of figure out like where the survivor is. So there's not just green kryptonite, even though many people believe that there is this green kryptonite.
Okay. I had no idea.
There's a lot, right? So Superman, like he gets too much green kryptonite, he dies, he's dead. But there's black kryptonite, there's white kryptonite, there's red kryptonite. All these different forms have different effects on him, such as possibly making him more loosey goosey, like he's drunk.
Mm.
There's some that there's gold kryptonite that actually takes away his superpowers. And I use that to sort of describe how males and how survivors should be trying to get. They don't want to be numb. They don't want to be extremely hypersensitive, but they want to be in that golden kryptonite zone where they're still able to feel all their emotions. So they still should feel sad, happy, angry, the whole spectrum of emotions rather than just one particular kind. Because if you only feel one, then you're cutting off the other ones and you can't move down the healing process. So kryptonite is a really good way for comic book lovers to really feel like they can gauge where they are on the SUD scale.
Nice.
Thanks.
Nice. And now we all know that there are several colors of kryptonite.
Yeah, because everyone should know that.
Everyone should know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, how cool to be able to take something that seems very distant. It's like you said, no one some people have an easier time talking about themselves and their own issues. But I think with men, we kind of expect them to be aloof and just deal with it. And I love the idea of being able to take on this persona of these superheroes that we've grown up kind of admiring and modeling after and kind of idolizing,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing that even they have weaknesses
And flaws. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. I love what you're doing with all of that. So you're working on another book currently. You're researching and writing a new book.
So How to Save Your Inner Wonder Woman really is for my wife, Sarah. So it's for caregivers of survivors of childhood sexual abuse because they need help too. For every survivor or victim of childhood sexual abuse, there's someone that they know that is trying to help them to heal and get better. So this is really to try and help them to understand that they need to take care of themselves too. Talking about trauma stewardship and how to not be a bowl, but a sieve to allow the trauma that they sometimes absorb from the people that they listen to let it flow through them rather than let it absorb into them. Because if they do, it results in burnout. It results in compassion fatigue and secondary traumatic stress. So if you practice these tools in order to make sure, like, hey, it's okay for you to get help too, and talk about if you had a difficult time with someone that you're trying to help heal, it's okay to talk. It's okay to get better. It's okay to express your frustration. Like, you don't have to be Superman as well. So this book is really for people like my wife who are helping other male survivors, people like Susan, my therapist, who is helping other survivors as well. It's probably the most difficult book I've written because I'm used to writing for male survivors, and this is more for anyone who is helping survivors of childhood sexual abuse, whether that's male, female, or otherwise. So this is sort of out of my comfort zone. And I did not know that much about Wonder Woman. Like I knew a little bit about her, the golden lasso, the invisible plane, but I've learned a lot, and she's pretty awesome, right? Like,
Nice.
so this book is really for them, in order to know that they got to take care of themselves too.
That's great. I mean, how do you see a timeline for when this might be out and available?
Yeah, so if the COVID-19 continues the way that it does, and these lockdowns continue, I'm hoping to have a draft done within the next month, because it's just me and my daughters and my wife stuck in the house. So I'm spending a lot of time writing. It was scheduled to be done and written hopefully by December 31st.
Hmm.
But with everything that's happening, I'm hoping to have it done before the beginning of the summer. So possibly by September or November, it might be available for sale.
Wow, that would be cool.
Yeah.
So, what kind of responses have you had to your books?
Oof. It's been all over the place.
Mm,
So um, online, I've got a few ads running. I get a lot of, well, not a lot, but I get some pretty negative things
mm,
from male survivors. Not just about my name, how it's a country singer. That does happen occasionally, but also just pretty rude and hateful things. Sometimes I get cursed out a little bit, saying how superheroes aren't really meant for that. Um, Real men just push their emotions away.
mm.
Uh, I just delete it, because other survivors, they don't really need that in their healing process. They don't really need to know it. Know that those people really exist. Um, I do get some pretty positive comments from therapists, counselors, but mostly it's just confusion from a lot of people, because they get confused in the fact that males are sexually abused as well. They get confused, and they say, "Wait, that really happened." So they don't really know what to say. Um, so they don't really say anything when I say, like, "Oh yeah, I write books for male survivors using superheroes." They say, "Oh, cool, 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 cool," and then they go off and they start talking about themselves. So it's sort of a mixed bag, but it doesn't really matter that much what people think, because I've gotten a lot of male survivors that have just reached out to me, and women survivors as well, just reach out and just comment and say, "Hey, it's really cool what you're doing. Keep it up." And I know there's plenty of people that still, like, I'm not gonna hear from or talk to, that I know that I'm helping. Um, my friend Michael Gomez, who is uh, an awesome therapist who works in Texas, who really has helped me out in understanding superheroes and which books to read to make sure that I'm getting my information correct. Because I'm not a therapist. I am I have not studied any of this. I am a survivor who has researched and just trying to help. So I want to make sure that I do more good than harm.
Mhm.
So he's really helped me out and helped point me in the right direction of understanding which books to research, read, and I send him what I've written, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you got that right." Um,
Nice.
like with the Sud scale, him and my other friend James, they really let me know, like, "Hey, there's two different kinds of Sud scales. You should
Mm,
research both of them to make sure that I got it right." So it's things like that to make sure that even though I may have a good intention of doing good, it may not always work out that way. So it's having people like that in my corner that's really my cheerleaders, to say,
mm.
like, "Hey, you're doing a good thing. I gave your book to another male survivor, and they really enjoy it." So it's really for those people and for myself, because I know that, I don't know, it's just a good thing to do.
Mm. It's the it's taken it to the far extreme of journaling, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Working through it
Yeah,
in an extreme way.
yeah, yeah.
Nice. Well, Kenny, thank you so much. I'm excited about what you're doing. I guess I do have one more question. So, after the inner Wonder Woman,
Hmm.
any thoughts on what we might see after
Oh yeah,
that?
it's all mapped out. Yeah,
Oh, it's all mapped out.
yeah.
Do you want to give us a little preview?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
after Wonder Woman, I'm working on Flash, which is
No.
dealing specifically with workaholism and the need to reduce your amount of stress and anxiety and be happy in the moment because Flash, he's always moving, right? Like
Always.
that's workaholism. Like you just got to keep moving. But he's a part of the speed force, but there's also a still force. I'm gonna pretend like you know what that is, but you don't.
I did
Um,
watch some Flash,
oh, look at
but
you.
I don't know what the still force is.
No, it's new. I'm just learning what it is too. So it's
Okay.
like the opposite, like pretty much meditation, like
Mm.
knowing that you can be calm and still be doing something that's bettering yourself rather than always moving. And then after that, I believe I'm working on Green Lantern. Um,
Oh.
because everything I just said about the Sud scale and the different kryptonites, same thing with the Green Lanterns. Like there are different colored rings of Green Lanterns that have different effects on people. So really exploring that will really allow. I haven't really fully developed that one as much because again, I don't know as much about Green Lantern. I mean, I know John Stewart and I know Hal Jordan and some of the other ones that are in there that sort of develop the mythos of the lanterns, but that requires a lot more research. And then after that, I'll start getting into Marvel.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay. So you've got a few options to choose from
yeah,
in the future.
yeah.
Yeah, I think your plate will be full for a long time.
Of course, that's how I like it. Like more entrees coming, just eating them up.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Great. Well, again, Kenny, thank you so much. I'm excited about what you're doing and the group that you are connecting with. It's such an important piece of this. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing your heart and your thoughts with us. And thanks for what you're doing for male survivors. A very underrepresented group. But
thank you. Yeah.
um, if you would like more information about upcoming impact conversations, or you have a suggestion for a future guest, you can subscribe, follow, and nominate by clicking on the link below. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep looking for ways you can positively impact our world.
Don't forget to subscribe and join us next week for another Impact Conversation.